On today's Join Us in France, the Orangerie Museum in Paris. Go or skip? This is Join Us in France, episode 136. Bonjour, I'm Annie, and today I bring you an episode with Elise, where we chat about the Orangerie Museum in Paris to help you decide if you'd like to go or if you might like to skip. The shout out today goes out to Joan Bateman, who pledged to support the show on Patreon this week. Thank you so much, Joan, and to all the other listeners who support the show on Patreon. You are really making a difference, and I hope you know how much I appreciate your continued support. I am preparing a fun installment of Lunch Break French. That's the exclusive content for Patreon supporters, if you didn't know. And that's going to be coming out early February 2017, and it'll be on how to express love in French and the different words we use for romantic love, friendship love, colleagues, etc. Please visit patreon.com/join us, and Patreon is spelled Patreon, and then join us does not have any spaces or dashes or anything. And patreon.com, join us, is where you can learn about the benefits of supporting the show and what you get in return. And thank you so much. If you like this episode, you should also check out episode 102 about the Rodin Museum. Both the Orangerie and the Rodin are smaller museums that do not take too much time to visit, yet they offer amazing world-famous pieces that I think you shouldn't skip. But that's my opinion. For show notes and for photos on this particular episode on the Orangerie, go to joinusinfrance.com/136. Now, for the news for this week, on Friday night, that was January 20th, 2017, which happened to be Inauguration Day in the US, I also launched a new website called addictedtofrance.com, where we also unveiled the tour that Elise and I had been talking about for several weeks. Elise had named the tour the Inaugural Paris Tour without having any idea that it would be published on Inauguration Day. That was just a coincidence. Please don't take it for a political statement or anything. It just happened that way. This new website, Addicted to France, took me a long time to get off the ground, but I was really, really happy to see 3 bookings right away, and I've emailed the people who booked. And I want to thank them right here for taking action so fast. It really warmed my heart to see, that people really listen to this. It's amazing. Elise and I want to keep the group really small, so we're only taking 14 people maximum. If you'd like to be one of them, go to addictedtofrance.com and put down a deposit. And if you want to hear all the details of the tour and how the payments work and all of that, stay tuned after the closing of this show, of this episode, and you can listen to that if you are considering it. Thank you very much. And now on with the show about the Orangerie with Elise. This is Join Us in France, episode 136. Hello, I'm Annie.
And I'm Elise.
Yes, Elise is with me today. Yay!
Hi. Happy New Year out there to everyone.
Yes. Well, this is a French thing. We wish everybody a Happy New Year up until the very end of January.
Up until the end of January.
So we're good. It's not
Annie,
yet.
I have a question.
Okay.
What happens to you if you wish somebody Happy New Year after February 1st?
I don't know. Probably.
Do they dissolve?
I don't know. And the other thing that's very French is that French people like to do long, convoluted wishes. So they will send you, I think we mentioned this last year too, they will send you like wishes for good health and for a prosperous year. And they get specific, and that your children will be healthy and your cat will not run away from home and whatever,
And whatever. We could make this list very, very long if we started.
Some people do. There's this thing that goes around Facebook the last few years. It's Jacques Brel.
Yeah.
He was interviewed on one of the radio stations, and he had written very long, wordy wishes. He wanted to make fun of the president, who does an official, New Year's wish thing. And so he made this long, ridiculous thing. But a lot of people take it seriously. They think that's how you're supposed to wish everybody a Happy New Year.
It probably goes back to some pagan ritual, where it's like a way of getting rid of the bad spirits before the New Year shows up, like just say it out, say it, it'll
say
go
it all,
away.
Yes.
But anyway, we'll just stay with Happy New Year and the best to all of you out there.
Exactly. Happy New Year. Now, today we are going to talk about l'Orangerie.
L'Orangerie.
Yes, a beautiful museum in Paris.
A very beautiful museum, probably one of the lesser known or visited compared to the biggies.
That's true. That's true.
But a lovely, lovely, lovely place. Mm-hmm. In a lovely place.
Exactly. Yeah, let's talk about the surroundings.
Okay, so the building of the l'Orangerie is actually at the extreme western end of the Tuileries Gardens.
Yes.
Which are these magnificent Italian-style gardens that I think we've actually talked about, that are an extension of the Louvre, that were created by Catherine de Medici. And right next to it is the Place de la Concorde.
Yes.
With the incredible obelisk that goes back 3,400 years. It's actually a real Egyptian obelisk.
Yeah, which Napoleon stole from Egypt.
No, no, this is not one they stole.
Oh,
this one was actually a gift.
Oh, that one was a gift?
It was a gift. It was a gift to France under Louis Philippe.
Oh, okay.
So it was in the middle of the 19th century. So it was not part of the loot that Napoleon took and then actually had to give back to Egypt.
Okay.
This one is officially okay. It's okay. Right. You can look at it and say, oh, good.
You can feel good about that
You can feel good about this. Yeah. And it's really a real one. It's kind of weird because you'd think, you could do with one now and it would look exactly the same. It's got hieroglyphics that are all over it. But it's the real thing,
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
Don't know what it says, but it's the real thing.
Somebody knows what it says.
Somebody does.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks to Champollion.
Thanks to Champollion. Exactly.
Champollion is one person I need to do an episode about.
I was going to say that is a person I would have loved to have met.
Yes.
Yes. He was a cool guy.
And someday when we do tours in the southwest of France, Figeac is beautiful, and that's where Champollion was born, and he spent some of his life, and they built a nice.
Let's go back.
Sorry.
Let's cut. Let's go back to the Orangerie. She's off. The wings were flapping. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so the museum called Orangerie.
Yeah.
L'Orangerie. An orangerie is technically a structure that was started. Really, the concept of it was actually started under Louis XIV with Versailles, and it was a structure that was designed to be like a very fancy hothouse.
Yep.
So that the very wealthy and the very rich, powerful people of France, and I guess even in other countries, I'm not sure, could have exotic plants and orange trees and lemon trees growing in the wintertime.
Yeah, because we can't all live in California.
Nah, or in Spain. Nah. So it came to be called an orangerie.
Yeah.
And it was actually a very important sign of status.
Right.
However, just like the obelisk of the Concorde, the Orangerie, which is a museum, is not ancient. It's actually also from the middle of the 19th century.
Oh.
And it was built at the same time that there was this big fashion for building things that referred back to the ancient medieval times, the Renaissance times.
Okay.
But it was built to not be an orangerie, because if you walk inside it, you'll see it doesn't seem to be very practical to imagine trees inside it at all, even though it does have a certain amount of light coming in. But it was built to be an exhibition structure.
Okay.
And it started out with the idea that it was, again, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, under Louis Philippe, it was going to be an orangerie. That is, it was really going to be, again, a thing that referred back to the past. But by the time it was finished, I don't believe it ever really functioned as such.
Okay. Interesting.
So it is really a 19th century structure. But this is what makes it so really interesting as a story. I don't know what happened to it for a short amount of time after it was finished. But by the end of the 19th century, it was decided by the government to make it into a very special place so that Monet, the painter, could use it. Now, by the end of the 1800s, he was a very, very famous artist.
Right.
He was not yet the old, venerable man that he became, because he didn't die until 1926. And when he died in 1926, he was 86 years old.
Yeah.
But by 1900 or so, he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Right? And so he was given the option of using part of the space in this structure to put in some very big paintings. And he had the luxury, which is rare at any time in history, of designing part of the architectural structure, because he decided what he was going to do was put in a series of murals of his famous lily pad paintings.
Right.
And that is really, we're entering into the first decade of the 20th century. By that time, he was starting to have very bad eyesight. The last 20 years of his life, because of cataracts, because of various things, he started to see more of a kind of long-distance blurry vision. He had a long-distance blurry vision. Now, I think everybody really who knows anything about Monet knows that he spent his life painting, looking at his garden.
Yes.
And his garden had sections with different colors. It had a beautiful pond. It had a Japanese bridge. It had beautiful willow trees falling down. And his obsession all his life was painting color at different times of the day and night. And as he got older and couldn't see, he started painting from a great distance, putting a brush on a long stick. And what happened was his paintings become really, if you get up close to them, more and more this kind of abstract strokes of color. And
it's hard to control a brush from
it's hard
distance.
to control. So what happened was that he knew what he wanted to paint, but what happens is that he decided to paint on a much larger scale because he could control it better. And so going up close, you have, if you go in and when you go in and you see these, you have layers and layers and layers of strokes of color, pure color, but just one layer on top of the other. And as you pull back, and you have to go, fairly far, you have to go a good, 20 feet away or more. What you notice is that it turns into a vision. And the vision is, of course, of leaves and water and trees, willow-type trees falling, and at different times of the day. So the French government honored him by giving him the chance to do a series of these murals in this rounded kind of, it looks like it would have been like a church. It's a rounded part of the structure of the building of the Orangerie. And he dictated the size, the actual curve of the walls.
Wow.
There are two rooms. Each one is on an oval. It's an oval form. And he said that he wanted natural light. So they had to rearrange the architecture so there are, in fact, natural light coming through with skylights in the center of both of these huge oval rooms. And what he wanted, which is a little bit hard to do with the numbers of tourists who come in all the time, he wanted a space of meditation. And what he wanted, and what they did do, so the two rooms are basically ovoid shape, and there are seats that are oval shape in the center. So you can sit and you can actually turn and look in every direction. And what you see is basically a contemplation of the same one or two spots in his garden at different times of the day and night.
Right.
And beautiful changes of color, with some of them being more yellows and some of them being dark greens and blues and almost purples because it gets to be nighttime. It's very, very beautiful. And this was given as an honor to Claude Monet, who was considered to be the greatest living artist at the end of his life. So much so that, he had a state funeral when he died. And one of his best friends was Georges Clemenceau, who was...
the président du Conseil.
President du Conseil and head of the government. They were very, very close friends for a very long time. And so he was the one who actually arranged for the giving of this space to Monet and to the execution of the plans.
Wow.
So this is why this is a very famous place, and it's a beautiful place to go and sit.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you go in, there are signs that say, do not speak when you go in to see these beautiful paintings.
Right.
But it's very difficult. The guards are there to kind of keep the volume down. But, it's almost impossible to get people to just walk through silently. It's just, so you have to whisper. You have to whisper when you go in. But it's lovely. And what happened was, I'm not sure exactly, but somewhere in the middle of the 20th century, they redid the interior. The paintings are, of course, originally on canvas, but set into the walls because he did them set.
Did he paint them there?
No.
Okay.
But no, he always painted actually looking at his gardens.
In Giverny.
In Giverny.
Yeah.
But they were measured to fit into the walls there. I mean, they were specifically set with the dimensions he wanted, right?
Yeah.
But something happened. I don't remember the dates exactly. And somewhere in the middle or just after World War II, or it was because the Germans occupied the Orangerie during World War II, they changed the inside and they closed up the skylights. And so for a certain amount of time, there was just artificial light and the setting was not the same.
Right. It can't be. And
it was in the end of the 20th century. And again, I don't remember exactly the dates. I don't know if it was, I think it was at the end of the 1980s, but I'm not really sure. It could have been even the beginning of the 1990s that they reset the two spaces to be in the original form and opened up the skylights again.
Okay.
So when you go in now, you do see it with its original light. And of course, the whole thing is that nobody does take that time. But literally, if you sat there during several hours, you would see how it affects the color on the paintings because of the natural light coming through, which is exactly what he wanted.
And this is really interesting because it also illustrates really well that we all see a little bit differently.
Yes.
We don't all have the same vision. And we even individually, we don't see the same throughout our lives.
Right.
It's one of the things, because I know a lot of blind people, it's one of the things that drives them nuts is that people always want to know, well, what do you see? And a lot of technically blind people see a little bit. They see a little something, but they don't see enough to navigate or to, or read a piece of paper or something. But they have some light perception, and it's interesting that Monet, used this long stick so he could see at a distance. Yeah, that's.
I mean, and it's and of course his total obsession all his life, and certainly as he got older, was the effect of light on color, which of course is why now we know scientifically that it is true that when the light diminishes, it's not like, you say, but no, really color does change, you see. Yeah. I mean, perception really is a reality, in that sense. It's a physical law of something or other,
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is the function and purpose of the Orangerie. Mm-hmm. And then in the 1990s, now it may very well, because I really didn't check the dates on this, it could be at the exact time that they remodeled the upper part to put the light back the way it was supposed to be, that they fixed up the lower level, which is basically a basement level, which runs the entire length of the structure. And what they did was they took a lot of the paintings that were from the Orsay Museum, because the Orsay has such a huge collection that, of course, 9/10 of it is in a storeroom somewhere.
Yeah.
And they made the downstairs an exhibition space that includes, on a permanent basis, some Renoir, some Picasso, some other people that are all pretty much end of 19th century, beginning of 20th century. And there's a space for
temporary
exhibits.
Yeah.
And every 2 or 3 times a year, there's a very interesting painting exhibit, all painting. Everything's painting.
Yeah.
But so it's a very nice, it's not a big museum.
Yeah, how long does it take to visit it?
Well, everybody's different. And it depends on what the temporary exhibit is. If you really don't care for what's in the temporary exhibit, I would say that you can be in and out very easily in a short hour.
Oh, wow.
Really, because some people will sit and look at the Monets for a while. Some people walk in the room, look around and go, okay, and walk out. So some people, quite honestly, are in and out in even 40 minutes. There's a little bookstore that's kind of nice. It has a lot of stuff that's postcards, books, and things that are all connected to Impressionism and Monet and Giverny and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But depending on how much time you take to look at the paintings downstairs, because there are some magnificent ones in the permanent collection. And then if you like the temporary exhibit, you can be in there a good minimum of hour and a half.
Right.
Easily, But it's
not teeny tiny.
It's not teeny tiny, but compared to Orsay, it's tiny.
Yeah.
And compared to the Louvre, Orsay is small, which is already a big museum.
Yeah.
So everything's relative, right?
Right.
Everything's relative to the size of the universe,
Yeah. And then in Paris, you have like the tiny Marie Curie Museum, which is like a one-room thing that you can...
Or you can even
see in 15 minutes.
I went to there's a tiny little museum for the painter Eugène Delacroix, who of course was a very famous painter. It was the last house he lived in, so it's like 3 tiny little rooms. It's just that's in a really nice part of the 6th arrondissement, so it's really kind of cute. But so Orangerie is not tiny like that, obviously.
Right.
But if you get used to things like the Louvre or Orsay, this one is much nicer in the sense that it's on a much more human scale.
Yeah.
You can go in and out easily in an hour and a half and have done it, without. But if you like Monet, and if you like that kind of painting, it's a lovely experience.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy that.
And it's also, let's face it, it's in a wonderful spot. You're across the street from the Seine River. You're at the end of the Tuileries Gardens. You're across from the Concorde. Everywhere you look, it's beautiful. It's kind of a neat...
Lots of cars, though, on the Concorde.
Yeah, lots of cars go on the Concorde. And in the park, right down below, the Orangerie opens up to the real extreme western end of the park, and you go down this kind of ramp to get down to the lower part and walk through the Tuileries. There are 2 lovely little cafes. And there's a vendor of ice cream right there.
Which Elise knows.
Ask about ice cream. I know.
First name basis.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Yes, just ask me about ice cream. Okay. And so it's a lovely spot. And of course, if you go at a time of the year, actually, it's a lovely place any time of the year. But if you go at a time of the year when the weather is kind of nice, there are benches right outside. You can sit and look out.
Hopefully in May.
In May on our tour.
May on our tour, we'll probably...
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's really perfect.
And you can walk from Le Louvre out, cross the Tuileries Gardens. It doesn't take that long.
It's a kilometer.
It's a kilometer. So... kilometer, even
it's
if
a teeny little bit more than a half a mile.
Yeah. Even if you go slowly,
and there are benches everywhere.
20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah,
it's going slowly, really slowly.
Really, it's the kind of place where you can sit anywhere. There are benches and seats pretty much anywhere. There's, you can take your time. There's this lovely pond down below, but it's a lovely little museum.
Yeah,
it's just a little. And it's famous because of the Monet paintings.
Right. Yeah. And let's just, before we finish, let's mention briefly that we've said the name Giverny a few times.
Yeah.
Now Giverny was his home. It was his home. He lived. But that's away from Paris.
Yes, it's away from Paris.
It's a day trip.
It's on the Oise River.
Right.
Giverny-sur-Oise. It's a good over-hour trip by train. Car, it's probably about the same, maybe even a little bit more. It depends, because you have to deal with the traffic leaving. It's northwest of Paris.
Yeah.
And it's exactly, he left Paris at some point when he was in his 40s and said he really was not a city guy. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to have a big piece of land where he could design a garden where he could plant all the kinds of flowers and things he wanted so that he could use that as the inspiration for his painting.
And that garden is amazing.
And the garden is amazing. And that is where he lived for the rest of his life. And people came to visit him, basically, there. And you can visit both the gardens and the house. It's lovely. It's just absolutely lovely. Obviously, if you go in the winter, there won't be too many flowers.
Yes, of course. It's not the same experience.
It's not the same experience.
Right.
But it really is the place that is associated with him.
Right.
Completely.
Right.
So it's nice. It's a very nice. I made a pilgrimage there a long time ago.
A pilgrimage?
Yes.
Why do you call it a pilgrimage?
Well,
was it a religious experience?
No, an artistic experience.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it was an artistic pilgrimage, and it was actually at the end of autumn, a long time ago. But it was very important to go there. I also, at the same time, it's because it's not very far away at Auvers-sur-Oise. I went to the tomb of Van Gogh.
Oh, that's where he's buried?
That's where he's buried, yeah. It was a very important day in my life. I did those two things.
Oh, wow.
Haven't been back, actually, since then.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, one of these days, we won't do it this tour coming up, but one of these days we should do a tour that
definitely
includes a day trip to Giverny.
A day trip to Giverny is wonderful. Yeah.
It would be very fun.
So that's the Orangerie, which will be on our tour, which is a list. It's part of the things we're going to visit on our tour, and it's a great place to
contemplate. I guess
to contemplate,
to just look. And I'm really looking forward to going and looking up close
at the
those
paintings.
brush strokes. How you did that, and then you step back and you go, "Oh, that's how it works."
That's how it works. Because really, when you get up close, you literally see how many layers of different color there are. And
how did he put it together in his brain?
That's how does any artist function? I mean, you do, it means you have the connection between the hand and the eye and whatever it is you're thinking about just works that way. And of course, you have to think that this is a man who was painting, by the time he finished them, he was painting for 60 years.
Wow.
Or more. And so,
so this is at the end of his life.
This is at the end of his life, and there's an assurance to all of this because he's really tried almost everything that involves light and color, and so this is his last, great.
So did he paint the same lilies in smaller smaller canvases and all of that? Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but there is another Monet Museum in Paris, and that is the Marmot Town. Which is it?
Marmot Town.
T-A-N.
Yeah, Marmot Town. Marmot Town. Oh.
Town.
A-N.
A-N. Mm-hmm. It's at the beginning of the Bois de Boulogne and the extreme western part of the 16th arrondissement.
Okay.
It's gorgeous. It's actually in an old mansion, a 19th century mansion. But it is the Monet Museum. It was actually created by his son. His son became an art what the French would call a galeriste. Pierre Monet became the first of all, he was executor of his father's estate, but also he ran a very, very important gallery during his entire life and also collected other people's art as well. And so part of what he had from his dad, he actually gave to this building to create a museum it was originally named after the person who either lived or built the house, but now it is the subtitle is the Monet Museum. And it's a beautiful museum. It's filled with small paintings, and it is very important for people who are really interested in Impressionism because in this museum is the painting that gave the name to the movement.
Oh, really?
And the painting is called Impression, Sunrise. It's either Sunrise on the Thames or Sunrise at Rouen. I can't remember because he spent a lot of time in London painting the Thames River. But actually, It is a small canvas.
And who was this a Monet?
This is the Monet painting.
Oh, okay. So he named the movement.
Well, no, he didn't name the movement.
Well, his painting.
But this is the reason why the story is so incredible, because first of all, this is the painting that has been reproduced more than any other of his paintings. And so it's on all the books about Monet. I was surprised to discover how small the painting is, number one. It's kind of like going to see the Mona Lisa, and it's smaller than that. I mean, it's really a small painting. Yeah. But the name was given to this group of artists who had not given themselves a name of any kind at all by an art critic who saw this painting and did not like it, and said, "What is this blah 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 called Impressionism? Ha ha ha." Who the hell do these people think they are? This is not a finished painting. This is just dabs of paint, and it's really ugly and it's really bad. So what is this stuff called Impressionism? Since the name of the painting is Impression of the Light, blah, blah. And so Monet and Renoir and Pissarro and a bunch of the people who were friends who were part of this movement, in the sense that they were all painting together and had the similar ideas, they said, okay, why not?
Why not?
Let's call ourselves the Impressionists. Yeah, and that's how they got their name.
Excellent. That's a good story.
So it's a good story. And it's funny when you go to see this painting, because you go, wow, it was just this very pretty but little painting. It's much smaller than most of the ones you see in the Orangerie Museum.
Huh. Yeah. But you got to go to Marmot Town.
So you have to go to Marmot Town to see it. Yeah. And that one's you have to take a metro and a bus, but if you like that painting, it's really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Really. Well, and also some of the listeners that we have go to Paris frequently, and so they might want to go to that one, if they haven't seen it before. So
and it's got it's one of those. I kind of like places like that now. It's an old house that was filled with beautiful objects, even if it's not my taste in objects. So besides the painting, it's got little objects and furniture and all the stuff that a wealthy person in the 19th century would have had, So it's kind of like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice thing to do.
When we're long dead, and of course we'll be super famous.
Yes.
They'll probably gather up all my old iPhones.
And put them together in a collection.
It'll be Annie's.
There'll be antiques by then. This will be. Oh, really? This is how they used them.
This is what they.
What they used back then. Oh man. Okay.
But it's true. When you go to a museum like that, you look at the bathroom type accessories, like the little basins they had, and you're like. That's how you washed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or look at the chairs. Yeah, I mean, you have to have taste for that kind of furniture.
Yeah.
But the paintings always last forever.
That's right. Paintings are nice.
All
right. Thank you, Elise.
Oh, you are quite welcome, Annie.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
Au revoir. There are 4 ways you can support the show, and 2 of them will not cost you a penny. How about that for a win-win? Free, no cost to you. Make your regular purchases on Amazon using the link in the show notes or on joinusinfrance.com/Amazon or any Amazon link on the site. I get a small percentage as part of the Amazon Affiliates program. You don't pay a penny more at checkout. The trick, though, is to remember to do it. Also, free, no extra cost to you. You can click on any of the banners on the right-hand side of joinusinfrance.com before you buy the travel services you will need to come to France. I have listed affiliate partners for flights, hotels, car rentals, train tickets, tours, etc. The list will grow and expand, as time goes by. But when you go through those banner ads, you do not pay a penny more. In fact, you often get special discounts and offers because I'm always on the lookout for discounts and special offers on your behalf. But the trick again is to remember to do it and to go to the site and look at that. My preferred way to get support is via patreon.com. And why is that? Well, Patreon.com is predictable. Remember, my goal is to make enough through your support so I can reduce my work hours. When you pledge on Patreon, I know what's coming. And that greatly reduces the stress of turning away paid work to do the podcasts, you see? That's why Patreon supporters get extra perks, because being able to count on your support month after month is really precious to me. So go to patreon.com/join us for details. And that's Patreon, and join us is without any spaces or anything. And of course, you can also make a one-time donation via the Tip Your Guide button on joinusinfrance.com. Those donations are wonderful. They make my day, but I know from experience that they don't happen very often. So here you go. 4 ways to support the show. 2 that won't cost you anything, and 2 that will cost you a little bit. It's up to you how you support the show. But please remember that without your support, this show and community would have to fade away, because I'm like everybody else. I have bills to pay. Thank you very much. This episode is licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Non-Derivatives International License. Hey, Elise.
Hi, Annie.
Let's talk about our inaugural tour quickly.
Oh, boy. Yes, we're doing an inaugural tour.
Yes, our dates?
Our dates are from May 14th to May 21st.
2017.
2017.
We have to say that because
that's right. This coming this coming year. This spring.
All right. And why are we doing this? Because, there's so many tours.
Well, you are right. There are so many tours, and I've actually done a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But we're special. We're special because we're Annie and Elise, right?
That's true.
For one, we are making this a small group tour. Right. We're not going to have more than 14 people at the most.
Right.
Which really makes it a nice, intimate group, and we get to know everybody really well and hang out together.
Right.
That's really good.
Right.
You know that lots of the tours in the industry, if they stay a week in Paris, which is not very common, very often they are big groups. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the herd thing, We don't want to be in a herd.
No herding for us.
No herding for us,
no.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's another thing that we're really looking forward to, spending time with the listeners.
Because,
right. I've had lots of people tell me, oh, I feel like I know you because I listen to the podcast. Well, it'd be nice if I felt like I knew the listeners too, right?
Exactly.
Through the closed group, the Join Us in France closed group on Facebook, I kind of feel like I've gotten to know a few people. But, spending a week with people
is
not the same.
No, it's not the same. And my past experience is not only do people have a wonderful time, but you actually make friends.
Yeah,
people make friends with each other, and I've made friends with some of the people that I've actually taken around on tours in the past. So It's very nice. You cannot do that with a big group.
Right.
And you and I are both sociable.
Oh yes, yes,
very.
yes, very. Okay.
Another reason that I think this is really going to be good and a lot of fun is that we both are bilingual.
Yeah.
Right? So you and I both speak both English and French, which means, number one, that we don't have to worry about whether we can make ourselves understood anywhere we go. Number two, we can help explain certain words in French to the people that come with us.
Yeah.
And I know that you are actually even looking forward to doing a little chit-chat in French.
Of course.
Besides
with people who want to.
With people who want to. And of course, it's really great to, I've really, I've done a lot of tours with people over the number of years. And it is true that people like to have words that refer to the things they're eating and the places they're going and things like that.
Yeah, they want to learn some
So it's
some
really
language.
nice. And it's nice to hear chatter and banter in both languages.
Yep.
So I think that's good.
And of course, art lovers and history lovers, because, well, that's what you bring to the show.
That's what I bring to the show, besides my charisma.
Of course.
And my beauty, of course, right? Yeah, and that is, of course, what going to Paris is really all about.
Right.
It's really my guess is that we may have some people who have already been to Paris, so we're not selling to people who don't know anything at all. But I've never heard anybody deny the fact that Paris is a totally gorgeous city, and that everywhere you turn, there's art, whether it's in the architecture, it's inside the museums, it's even the way people kind of dress while they walk down the streets.
Right. And this one in May, we're going to have,
and we're in May,
flowers.
Right.
And the spring
yes,
and
and
that.
flowers really are in bloom, which means all the parks and gardens will be filled with flowers.
Yeah.
So it's really. It really is. When we say it's an art and history lovers tour, it's really that in every sense of the word.
Right.
You're just sort of surrounded by it.
Right. And Elise will take us on visits to
the museums.
Louvre, Orsay.
Really reserved, private, guided tours that we will do with me because I am, of course, a licensed guide.
Right. And she can actually address a group inside of a museum, whereas I cannot, you see, because I'm not a licensed guide.
You're not a licensed guide.
Right. So I'll do different things. I'll follow around. I'll help out. I'll do all this good stuff. But I can't really, I don't have any right
to do that.
Open my big mouth in a museum.
No, we will have really reserved spots for getting into the major museums that we're going to go to. And
we'll do like the...
we're going to do Orsay that way, Louvre that way.
Right.
Rodin, which is a little easier, actually.
Palais Garnier.
And the Palais Garnier. And really, that is one of my areas of expertise. So that's where, Annie, you're going to have to give me time. You're going to be standing in the back going T all the time.
Cut it out.
Cut it out. I was like, oh, God, there she goes again.
We'll go to the Orangerie as well.
Yes, we'll go to the Orangerie as well.
So anyway, we have lots of very fun visits planned. But of course, we also want to relax and rest. That's why we have the whole week. We really want to take as many opportunities as possible to stop at cafes.
Yes.
Have a nice crepe, have a nice ice cream, a coffee, whatever you feel like. We'll stop. We'll take plenty of breaks. We'll watch the world go by, and it'll be very, very nice.
And of course, we are talking about two people who like to eat and drink and have nice little sweets and things like that. So you don't count on us for keeping you on your diet. It will not happen.
No, we won't keep you on your diet, but we will walk you around an awful lot.
Yes.
So this is a word of warning. If you want to come and you have difficulties walking, minimum 3 miles a day, probably 5 miles per day, and possibly some days more. I don't think we'll do much more than that, but, there will be plenty of walking, some up hills, some stairs.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously going up like the Notre Dame Tower is going to be utterly optional. If you want to do it, you can do it.
But, and those are big climbs.
Yeah, we're not going to make you do 300 stairs just to get to the top of something because the tour is going to be up there. But there will be plenty of walking.
And really, honestly, for everybody out there listening to us, it's city walking. So it's hard on your feet. It's sidewalk. It's going a little bit up and down steps in the metro, which are old metros, so they don't all have escalators. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Some don't, yeah.
So it's not the kind of walking like doing 3 or 4 miles out in the countryside. So it is for everybody. It is a tiring experience, and you need to be able to do it. You know, I mean,
Right.
we're not going to kid around and say it's an easy thing to do.
Right.
Even though we'll probably be taking city buses most of the time.
Right, right. We'll take plenty of transportation.
But it's good, you know, at the end of the day, you're very happy to raise your legs and get off your feet and have that nice glass of wine.
Exactly. And the last thing I want to mention, and there's probably many more, but what I really like about the way we've set this up is that every night you'll be sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah,
Okay.
not in our bed, but in
No.
your own same bed.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And that is one thing also is we have decided to not purchase hotel rooms
Right.
on your behalf because we don't know what your requirements are. And we really would rather give you some recommendations,
Yes.
which we will do. And you can choose, you can go as inexpensive or as fancy as you wish.
Yes.
Of course, every morning we'll have a meeting place. It would be much better if you could be in the neighborhood.
I think it's really a good idea.
Yeah. So you don't have to walk 2 miles before you get to us.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's an area with lots and lots of hotels. So there should be no difficulty for you finding either one of the ones we recommend because we've tried them or some of the other ones.
Or some of the others.
Lots of ones. You could do an Airbnb. You could, whatever suits you. And of course, the tour is priced accordingly. So, you know, your airfare and your hotels are extra.
Are extra, but they are your choice, and I think it's really important that we really insist that people have an option to choose the kind of place. However, note that it is for May of this coming spring, and so if you're contemplating coming with us, the best thing to do is to get that temporary reservation in for a hotel or an Airbnb as soon as you can.
Right.
Because it's a busy, busy time in Paris.
Right.
There are many activities that are going on besides just tourist activities. There's the beginning, it's right before the beginning of Roland Garros, which is the huge tennis tournament.
Right.
There are various trade fairs and things like that. So
It's busy. It's busy
there
time.
are sites where you know you can make a temporary or a provisional reservation. My suggestion is start looking and think about doing it as soon as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it certainly is very, very nice to know that you can just get in, put your suitcase or suitcases down and not have to look at them and pick them up again until you leave
Right.
at the end of the week.
Yeah, I've heard of
which is great.
tours where you have to have your suitcase outside of your door by 7 a.m. every morning.
Right. Well, that, of course, is if you're not staying in the same place anyway, you know.
Right, but
one of the
7
things we're
a.m.,
doing,
come on.
we're doing is day excursions
Right.
and coming back to the same place,
Right.
which is really a nice way to do it, you know,
Right.
so you don't have to worry about it. And I think, you know, we since we're talking about meeting up in the Latin Quarter, there are lots and lots of places to stay.
Right.
So
Right.
everybody
No
should be able to find what they want.
All right. Thank you very much, Elise.
Oh, thank you, Annie. And really, I am so excited and looking forward to this.
Me too.